What's up, guys, and welcome back to my channel. New York City Mayor Eric Adams has confirmed that the NYPD is officially investigating the brawl that broke out at UFC 322 inside Madison Square Garden. The incident happened before the main card began, when Dillon Danis walked into the arena near Islam Makhachev's corner. His presence immediately caused tension, leading to a confrontation involving several members of Islam's team. The most notable figure involved was UFC newcomer Magomed Chankozanov, also known as John Poor, who stepped directly toward Danis as chaos quickly escalated. Mayor Adams addressed the situation publicly on X, writing, "These assaults at Madison Square Garden are completely unacceptable. The NYPD is already conducting a full investigation and everyone responsible will be held accountable." His statement made it clear that the city is treating the incident seriously, especially given that it happened in one of the most high-profile arenas in the world during a major sports event. The reaction from within the MMA community came quickly. Ali Abdelaziz jumped on social media and aimed his comments at Conor's camp, tweeting, "At the notorious MMA, I thought you were gangsters, but now you guys call the police. Typical fate." His remarks added another layer of tension to an already heated situation, especially considering the rivalry between Danis, Conor, and members of Islam's circle. As the investigation continues, more details are expected to surface regarding who initiated the confrontation and who may face consequences once the NYPD completes its review. And before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to help support the channel. Moving on to another news, Shavkat Rakhmonov has provided a detailed update on his health issues and his long-awaited return timeline. He explained that he suffered a meniscus and ACL injury before his fight with Ian Garry. Because he had been out for so long and didn't want to lose the opportunity, he chose to fight anyway. Shavkat said the injury didn't get worse during the fight, and the damage before and after the bout was essentially the same. At first, he tried to avoid surgery and hoped rest and rehab would be enough, but it became clear the injury wasn't healing properly, forcing him to undergo surgery. That recovery period is why he has been sidelined for nearly a year. Now, Shavkat says he finally feels good and healthy again. His target timeline for a return is the end of February or March, depending on how his body responds over the next few months. After his interview on Ariel Helwani's show, Shavkat went on Twitter to clarify some of his comments. He wrote, "No trash talk, just facts. Ian Garry lost to me while I was injured. He hasn't finished anyone in his last 6 fights, and Prates nearly stopped him. Doesn't sound like a #1 contender to me." Moving on to another news. Michael Bisping has voiced criticism of Ilia Topuria and his recent decisions in the UFC. Speaking on his Believe You Me podcast, Bisping expressed disappointment over Ilia avoiding a fight with Arman Tsarukyan and suggested that the UFC shouldn't allow him to move up to 170 for a super fight with Islam Makhachev until he properly defends his lightweight title. Bisping made it clear that his comments aren't an attack on Ilia personally, stating that he is a fan and thinks Ilia is cool, smooth, and charismatic, as well as a genuinely talented fighter. However, Bisping emphasized the importance of responsibility as a champion. He pointed out that Ilia has to respond to contenders and defend his belt before pursuing bigger fights in higher weight classes. Bisping referenced previous discussions, noting that Ilia had even considered vacating rather than defending against Arman, which raised concerns about his commitment to the division. Bisping compared the situation to comments made by Ian Garry, who reminded Islam Makhachev that as a champion, he has an obligation to face the best. The same principle, Bisping argued, applies to Ilia. Bisping stressed that Ilia became champion and, as such, has a duty to defend his belt and give top contenders their opportunities. He said Ilia must make a statement regarding his intentions, clarify who he will fight next, and honor his responsibilities as champion. Bisping concluded that until Ilia defends his lightweight title, moving up to challenge fighters in higher divisions is premature. The message was clear. The focus should remain on the division, defending the belt, and maintaining the integrity of the championship before considering any super fights or cross-division challenges. Bisping's comments highlight the expectation that champions must face top contenders rather than avoid them or chase marquee matchups without settling their own division first. Moving on to another news, Chris Weidman has explained in detail why he had to pull out of his boxing match with Anderson Silva, a fight many fans were excited to see. He said he wanted to clear up all the confusion surrounding the situation, especially now that Tyron Woodley has stepped in as Silva's new opponent. Weidman explained that he was originally scheduled to box Silva on November 14th on the MVP card, airing on Netflix with Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis. Then the event was postponed to December 17th, now featuring Anthony Joshua. Despite the shift, he stayed focused, kept training, and felt great going into camp. He admitted he never thought he could get seriously injured from boxing, believing it was much easier on the body compared to MMA. But everything changed in a moment. While sparring, he threw a hard left hook and immediately felt his bicep tendon tear. He showed the exact motion, explaining how quickly it happened. The tendon was 95% torn, leaving just a small piece still attached. Because of that little bit of tendon left, the pain was unbearable. He tried to push through, hoping rest would allow him to continue training. But every time he returned to boxing and picked up the speed of his punches, the pain would shoot through his arm. He said it got to the point where he couldn't even lift his arm for defense. He believes if the tendon had completely torn, the inflammation might have gone down enough for him to fight first and get surgery afterward. But with the partial tear, there was simply no way to continue. Weidman said he kept trying to give it rest, then would go back into training, feel good for a moment, and as soon as he let his hands fly, the pain returned. He recalled sparring a professional boxer, and within the first minute, he threw a powerful left hook, felt the pop, and immediately knew something was very wrong. He said it was frustrating because the injury looked like nothing from the outside, but it was serious. To everyone who supported him and was looking forward to the matchup with Silva, he said he hopes the fight can still happen someday. He genuinely enjoyed boxing training, said he fell in love with the sport, and is eager to return once he heals up. For now, he's focused on recovering, spending time with family for Thanksgiving, and continuing his TV work with the UFC. He promised to update fans if the Silva fight gets rebooked, and thanked everyone for their support. Moving on to another news, Shavkat Rakhmonov has opened up about who he wants to fight next and the reality of his situation in the welterweight division. He admitted that even though his ideal scenario would be stepping straight into a title fight, the timeline doesn't really match up. With his planned return in February or March, he believes that's simply too soon for Islam, who will likely defend his belt in April or May. Still, Shavkat made it clear that if the UFC suddenly offered him Islam next, he would accept without hesitation. He reminded everyone that he was originally supposed to fight for the title and only withdrew because of a legitimate injury, and the UFC assured him he would still get a future title shot. But if he has to fight again to prove he's the #1 contender, he has no issue doing that. When asked who he thinks makes the most sense if it isn't a title fight, Shavkat said the division is constantly shifting and there are several strong options. He mentioned Prates, Morales, Usman, and even Buckley, who has been calling him out. He also said BDM could be a possibility. As long as he's given the right notice and time to prepare, Shavkat says he will face anyone placed in front of him. Out of all the potential opponents, he admitted the most intriguing matchup for him is Cormier. However, he doesn't believe Usman will accept the fight, pointing out that Usman has turned down fights with him before. Still, Shavkat emphasized that it doesn't really matter who the UFC chooses. There are plenty of good options, and all he wants is a clear date, proper preparation time, and the guarantee that the fight will determine the next #1 contender. Moving on to another news, Mike Perry may be facing an early retirement after revealing a massive tax bill of over $800,000. Despite having one of the biggest years of his career in 2024, Perry earned huge paydays, including from his fight against Jake Paul, and even launched his own fight promotion. However, in a new episode of his Overdogs podcast and through posts on social media, he disclosed that a major accounting mistake left him on the hook for this enormous sum. Perry explained that his accountants mishandled his earnings from the Jake Paul fight, claiming they dropped the ball on properly managing his finances. Perry described the situation as devastating, saying that the financial hit is so severe it may force him to retire. He said, "I'm retiring though. Yeah, I did it to go camping in the woods. They not letting me be rich. They were like, oh, you thought you was rich? Give us everything you have." And I was like, wow, now was the time I was supposed to have the money? He pointed out that the mistake wasn't on him, but on his accountants, explaining, "My accountant goes, hey Mike, we just saw the Jake Paul money." "What do you mean you just saw it? It's been there. Somebody dropped the ball, bro. I owe everything to them." Perry admitted the situation has left him ready to take drastic measures to protect himself and his finances. He said he is prepared to sell everything, withdraw all his money from the bank, and either go off the grid or even face prison for a short time if necessary. The fighter made it clear that this is a frustrating and life-altering development, one that overshadows his successful year and could dramatically alter his career plans. Despite his achievements, Perry now faces a tough road ahead as he navigates the consequences of this financial mismanagement. Moving on to another news, Tony Ferguson says he'd beat Islam Makhachev in his prime, and he's not holding back. Tony explained in an interview with Helen Yee that in his view, Islam was always one of those guys who had Khabib in the practice room, similar to how Aljamain Sterling and Merab worked together before Aljo moved aside and Merab rose to the spotlight. Tony said that, to him, Islam was always the more conditioned athlete, always doing his thing, but still operating in the background, while Khabib was the one front and center. Tony believes that when Khabib's father was around, Islam stayed in the shadows out of respect, refusing to outshine the man who led their team. But once Khabib retired and went through family matters, Tony feels Islam finally stepped forward and had his moment to shine. Tony added that Islam is his own athlete and doesn't concern himself with anything but his own progression. At the end of the day, Tony said, they're all athletes trying to pass knowledge down to the next generation. But then Tony turned the conversation up a notch, saying that in his prime, he would kick Islam's ass. He doubled down by claiming that 1 or 2 years at his own academy would make any fighter better than the best Dagestan wrestlers out there. He said it confidently, making it clear he truly believes his system, his style, and his mindset are on another level entirely. Tony also shared that there are only 2 people he still wants to fight, no matter when or where, and those are Conor and Khabib. He said both fights would sell tickets instantly, good or bad, because the hype around them would be massive. For Tony, it isn't just about competition, it's about history, entertainment, and giving fans something unforgettable. He even went as far as saying that if you put him and Khabib together at the White House, the world would witness pure fireworks. According to Tony, that matchup would be Khabib versus Tony round 6. A continuation of the fight that so many fans waited for, but never got. Tony believes the story isn't finished and insists that if the opportunity ever came up, the spectacle would be bigger than ever. Moving on to another news, Daniel Cormier has shared his thoughts on the toughest matchup for Ilia Topuria in the lightweight division, and he believes it's Arman. Cormier explained that while he thinks Paddy Pimblett is fun to watch and has a bright future in fighting, the 2 best lightweights in the world right now are Arman and Ilia. He pointed out that Islam Makhachev has moved up and is now the welterweight champion, leaving the spotlight on Arman and Ilia as the top fighters in the lightweight division. Cormier said he found it a bit odd that Paddy got a fight in the octagon right after Ilia won the belt, as he didn't feel that beating Michael Chandler justified him being in that position so quickly. The bigger concern, he noted, was how the image of Paddy in the cage with Arman and Ilia would be perceived after Ilia became champion. Turning to Arman's recent performance, Cormier praised his size, strength, and versatility. He said Arman can wrestle, strike, and control his opponents in multiple ways, making him a very complete fighter. Cormier emphasized that Arman's top control is particularly dangerous and a real issue for anyone facing him. He believes that this skill set makes Arman a serious threat to Ilia, as he can replicate aspects of Islam Makhachev's dominant game to a significant degree. Cormier's analysis suggests that while fans are excited about Ilia's title reign, Arman represents the toughest challenge in the division. With his all-around skills, physicality, and top control, Arman poses a matchup that could test Ilia in ways few others can. Cormier concluded that for anyone evaluating the lightweight division, the potential clash between Arman and Ilia is one of the most intriguing and competitive fights to anticipate in the near future. Moving on to another news, Shavkat Rakhmonov has officially called out Islam Makhachev, and he did it during his appearance on the Ariel Helwani show. Shavkat opened by giving Islam full credit for what he called a great performance at UFC 322. He said he watched the fight closely and thought Islam looked sharp, composed, and dominant. But at the same time, Shavkat made it clear that he isn't fully convinced about the level of that performance without testing it himself. He explained that part of him wonders whether Islam was truly that good, or if JDM simply had an off night and wasn't able to show his usual sharpness. Shavkat said, "I believe Islam had a great performance, but I also want to find out for myself. Is it that JDM had such a bad performance, or did Islam have such a good performance?" He went on to describe himself as a universal fighter, someone who can bring danger from every position. According to him, his style matches up well with Islam, and he believes he can make the fight difficult everywhere, whether it's striking, grappling, or wrestling exchanges. He finished by saying he simply wants to test himself against the best and see what happens when he steps into the cage with Islam. Moving on to another news, the situation around Ilia and Arman has taken a dramatic turn, and it all started with that viral backstage moment. A few days ago, Ilia posted the clip of him walking up to Arman, placing his hand on his neck in a playful but clearly passive-aggressive way. At the time, fans argued over whether Ilia was trying to intimidate him or simply joke around. Then, Ilia went online, claiming Arman didn't do anything in person and only talks on the internet, flipping the narrative to make it seem like Arman backed down when face-to-face. But now, the story has changed again, because Arman just went on Daniel Cormier's show and dropped a bombshell that reframes the entire situation. On DC's channel, Arman revealed exactly what Ilia told him during that brief backstage encounter. According to Arman, Ilia wasn't trying to start anything. Instead, he greeted him calmly, said, "Brother, how are you? This is just media thing, this and that," and then went on to confirm something massive. Ilia told Arman that their fight is next and that the UFC has already locked it in. Arman said he was told directly, in person, that Ilia will defend his lightweight belt against him as his first title defense after knocking out Charles Oliveira. Arman described the moment as one of relief, saying he responded, "Yes, finally," because this is the matchup fans have been demanding for months. All the puzzle pieces suddenly make sense. The UFC had been quiet about Ilia's next move because they were waiting to see how Arman performed at UFC Qatar. And Arman delivered in the most emphatic way possible. He dominated Dan Hooker, sent a clear message to the division, and positioned himself as the undeniable #1 contender. With that performance, and with Ilia's backstage confirmation, the road to their fight has become crystal clear. According to Arman, the UFC has confirmed internally that Ilia versus Arman is next for the lightweight title. The two are expected to meet in February 2026, headlining one of Paramount's first major events of the year. This timing lines up perfectly with the UFC's new broadcast plans and gives both fighters enough time for full camps. As Arman explained on DC's show, this is exactly what the fans want, and it's the fight that will define the next era of the lightweight division. The tension between them has been building for months, and now, with both men at their absolute peak, the matchup is officially on the horizon.